Alrighty, we're live. What's up, everybody? I'm Trent with Soundlink TV. Hanging out here with Devin from Sunsleep, and yeah, we're just gonna hang out tonight. We've been doing these things for a couple of weeks now. We've had Outline and Color, we've had Trapped, and we have Sunsleep, and hopefully we got some more guys coming on later on during these quarantine interviews, just bringing some entertainment during while everybody's locked down or supposed to be locked down and all that. But yeah, Devin, speaking of quarantine, what's been going on with you guys in the band? We were just talking, before this started, how you guys are kind of like dispersed out and everything. So how has like quarantine, I guess, affected the band, for 2020?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, essentially, I haven't seen any of those guys since December of last year, which is crazy. So it's been 8 months since I've seen the dudes. But of course, we still keep in contact with like Zoom calls and all that stuff. It's kind of the world we live in now, I guess. So
yeah. Yeah, so I guess from a music standpoint, you guys have an EP that came out a couple of years ago, and you guys have a couple new singles that are sort of like being dripped out onto Spotify and stuff. So
yeah,
I guess from a release standpoint, things are going as scheduled and everything. But I guess, how has this impacted that type of stuff with releasing music and all that?
So this year we've kept the rollout going. So we put out a single in May. We just put out a song called New Sensations 2 weeks ago. So we've kept it going regardless. It's definitely affected like our plans this year. Obviously with touring, that's not happening right now. But as far as keeping content out and keeping the music like being released and stuff, we have the ability to work remotely, and you can expect more material from us in the future. So.
Okay. Do you guys have like a LP coming out, or is it just another EP and everything? So like, what are you guys dripping out right now?
We're kind of just doing the singles route right now. So we, this year we'd planned to, maybe go in and do a full length. But with everything going on, it's kind of hard to get everybody in the same place. So
yeah,
I think we're just going to keep that train going with just releasing singles. And then maybe once things start kind of clearing up, we'll address like putting out something more like an LP or an EP or something.
Okay, so I guess what is a hobby or something you've taken up outside of music during this time? I'm sure you've had some time to just, like maybe play some games or go hiking or bird watching or whatever it is, So what are some things that you have picked up on during this time?
Yeah, so I mean, I love the outdoors. I live here in Utah, so there's a lot of like mountains and stuff out here. So I go camping a lot. We go out to like some reservoirs, and I've done some like river rafting and stuff. So just good old outdoor hiking, camping, that kind of stuff has been what I've been up to outside of just working in the studio. So.
Okay, and how are you guys making that work? With the Zoom calls and working. Are you guys like practicing over Zoom? Everybody like kind of like dealing with the 3-second lag, or whatever it is, with everything syncing up.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, no, we're not trying to do that. So we'll be a little bit rusty once we get back into the rehearsal space, I'm sure. But just keeping in contact. We've done a few live streams together with the band members and stuff. So, but no practices, unfortunately, just because of lagging and all that makes it kind of possible.
Yeah. Now, even though you guys are sort of like dispersed out and everything, is there any plans to get together, maybe do like a live stream like Slaves is doing tonight, or like Under Oath's done for the past couple of weeks? Dance Gavin Dance, Silverstein, all these other bands have been doing those. So is there like any plans to get together and meet up and do like a little, I guess, like a live stream show? That kind of seems like to be the way it is. It's got to be for the next, few months or whatever.
Yeah, no, it totally is. As of right now, we haven't like made any plans or talked about any specifics for that, but I would totally be open to it. I think it's a cool way to kind of keep it going with the live shows and stuff. The only problem is we just all have to meet up in the same place, but I'm sure if we wanted to make it happen, we could probably make that happen this year. So.
Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit about your band and like the style and everything, because you guys are very, very much in your own lane with, what you're doing and everything. But you vocally, you remind, like your style and everything, and even some of the music of the band reminds me a lot of Search the City. I'm not sure if you know who they are or anything of that band.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so I guess and I love that band, so it's kind of cool hearing another band sort of like give off those vibes and everything. And so
totally.
who are your influences, vocally and singing and stuff, and I guess what bands from the scene or maybe outside the scene have influenced you as an artist and as a singer and everything?
Yeah, man. So yeah, I definitely loved that kind of like. I started off like loving that kind of mid 2000s, like Amberlin, Search the City,
Yeah,
Survive, those types of bands. Was super into that kind of stuff, and still am. Still love that kind of stuff. I love like a lot of like pop too, like The Weeknd and Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber. So I'm influenced by that kind of stuff. Paris, I like Lynn Gunn's stuff. She's awesome. Yeah, man, it's kind of all over the board, but I think some of the bigger influences I have for sure are like Stephen Christian and Anthony Green and Lynn Gunn for sure.
okay. And so where do you see the band sort of like fitting in with all these other bands? And not that you have to fit in with with the scene or anything, but you kind of like to tour and to play shows and everything. You kind of like have to have that little niche to sit in. Like where do you think you guys fit in with that type of stuff, with that sound and everything?
Totally. Yeah. So I mean, we've been out on a full US with Tillian from Dance Gavin Dance. We did his like solo tour with him. We went out with Picturesque last year, which they're pretty similar, Too Close to Touch.
Yeah.
Slaves, Dayseeker. Those are just some of the groups that we've toured with, and I, presume you could expect to see us out with some of those groups in the near future.
Okay. And a lot of these bands, sort of like on their way up, like you guys. I know the Funeral Portrait, Awake at Last, and some of these other bands have. I think even Picturesque at this point too, as sort of like found their way onto like like the Octane Test Drive stuff and the Octane Radio and all that. Is that a direction that you could see your band going, or is that a direction that you guys would probably want to go into with the newer stuff, or you guys just sort of just playing it out and seeing what's going to happen with that?
I think with us, we work with Eric Ron. So Eric Ron's notorious for, kind of producing bands that end up on, Octane Radio and all that stuff. So I'm not saying that couldn't happen. It very well could. I think we draw influence from a little bit more like indie rock too.
Okay.
Like 1975, Japanese House from Indian Lakes, like those kinds of bands. So, there's a little bit of that in there, which keeps it off of like the super rock stuff. But I'm not opposed to it. Like that would be a really cool place to land, and I think that would be awesome if that happened. So,
okay. Now, something about the singles you guys are doing is we talked about earlier is like sort of like drip feeding it out, and obviously there's more stuff on the backlog and everything. And I think a lot of bands today they're so like in a hurry to drop an album, but after that album comes out, there's really nothing there for 2 years to go off of, and so.
Yeah.
A lot of the smaller bands that are taken after like those pop artists like Ariana Grande or Post Malone or whoever, they're just dropping single after single. Then the whole album comes out, and 6 months later they have a new single. I think Dance Gavin Dance is a very good band in the scene who does that. Like they release an album, and then like at the end of the year they have a new single come out. Then they release like 500 variants of that one single on vinyl, and so. Yeah.
that band kills it. They're constantly putting out content.
Yeah.
So, I think that we're kind of in a similar vein where we just like we want to keep it consistent. As far as putting out LPs and such, we haven't quite gotten to that point, mainly just because of like recording expenses. We're fairly independent still, so we're actually right at this moment we're technically not signed to a label or anything. So that all falls back on us, but we're also self-reliant. I'm a producer. We work with another producer as well too. And I've done some of our stuff, like Drifting Away. I like pretty much produced that song with a guy named Kevin Franklin. So, it's definitely possible for us to keep rolling out consistently with content. I think that's kind of the platform now.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it. Yeah,
a record every 3 to 4 years is just that's been dead for a while, and I don't. It just doesn't work in this day and age. So. That's kind of the way that we follow it to answer your question. Yeah, is a lot more kind of like that pop mentality of putting out singles or whatever, and eventually kind of getting an album together, or just following up with EPs and such.
Yeah, I mean, Slaves is another band that did that. I think their record drops Friday, and
totally,
it's been done for over a year. Their first single from that record came out last year, and then from what I've heard, they're going to record again at the end of the year. And same thing with what Skax told us like last week with Outline and Color with their new EP. They're already got studio time booked for October to go make some more stuff. And so Is that what you guys are at? Are you guys like thinking about the next thing, even though the new thing, the current thing is not even officially 100% out yet?
Right. Yeah, we have a few more things in our arsenal, but we're getting to that point where it's probably time to talk about like booking more studio time and stuff. Oh, sorry. There we go. Almost dropped my phone there. But can you guys still see me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, we definitely like are looking at, getting in and working on some more material probably at the end of the year. So
Okay.
that's all I can say right now.
Now, is there other, would you guys like to stay independent, or would you guys like to go for a label if it presents yourself? Because on one hand, you are self-sufficient, you can do everything by yourself, and the 0.0038 cents or whatever Spotify pays you, goes into your pocket instead of
Right.
going to somebody else. And so
No, we are so open to labels and such. That was part of what was going on this year. That was kind of a bummer, is we were being looked at by a few different labels, but I think because of this whole pandemic, that kind of went off the table. So, we're definitely open to that. And if there's the right kind of deal comes along, we're 100% for it. So,
yeah. So like with COVID, aside from releasing music, like what do you guys see for the rest of the year or possibly next year in terms of engaging with your fans and keeping stuff going and everything besides, just releasing music and everything?
We hope that by this time next year that touring kind of becomes a reality again.
Yeah.
With us being newer, so we've only really had like a touring career for like the past year and a half, 2 years. We're still kind of getting ourselves out there. We've done a lot of like opening support roles. We haven't really done like a co-headliner. I mean, the one that we did with Picturesque was the only like co-headliner we've even done, but so we're still trying to kind of get our feet wet in that world. So my hopes is that by like this next summer that like all of that kind of starts coming back into play. But if not, like for sure, like do some live streams and stuff, like, full force with camera work and recording it on a live console and all that stuff would be so sick. So
yeah, it's kind of cool though to be in that spot because being a new band, you kind of sort of get to create your own path without anybody telling you really what to do after seeing what bands have done or the old models that aren't working. Like we were talking about releasing albums every 3 or 4 years, and so
yeah.
How do you feel about that? I guess being in sort of that kind of realm is sort of just getting your feet wet, like you said, and just seeing like, hey, we can do something totally different here, and just sort of get into a new lane with everything.
That's the thing, man. Like I'm totally for that model. Like I like writing and producing music, and the more consistent I can be putting out content, the better. So I don't really like to work on an album for a year, get all this stuff ready for it, sit on it for a while, finally release a music video. It's kind of hard to keep people's attention in this day and age with social media and all that. So I'm totally for the model of keeping a consistent flow of content, whether that is music or live streams or whatever. So whatever that may be.
Yeah, and with a lot of these bands, they sound like they could cross over into like the modern pop stuff too, and kind of like before the start, we were talking about, you kind of were like close to Posty's house, like where and everything. And so I guess who is somebody, should that happen, because especially somebody like him who's into the scene and all that, like who is like a dream collaborator that you would like to produce with, or because a lot of these guys in bands, who are producers, they do a lot of co-writing with those guys behind the scenes, but nobody knows about it. And so I guess rather featuring on your band or co-writing or producing somebody, I guess for you and your career in that regard, like who's like, I guess the dream list for that type of stuff?
Oh, dude, for sure. So Matt Healy from the 1975 would be like crazy for me.
Nice.
Love that guy. He's a huge inspiration and idol of mine. Abel from The Weeknd, that would be nuts.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, man. Like those two guys were the first that came to my mind. As far as like artist collabs, that would be crazy. Ollie Sykes, that's always been somebody that like I think would be a really cool feature on something that's probably a little more realistic for us, but like shooting for the stars, that would be like the top tier. top tier dudes right there. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean he's I mean you got MGK writing pop punk music. You got Bring Me, who like wrote a Halsey song last year. You got, you know, Youngblood collaborating with them. So I mean it's, you never know. I mean that stuff could happen and everything. And so who knows? It could be MGK's pop punk stuff that kind of like brings what all these bands are doing back to the mainstream and everything, like the good old TRL days.
Yeah, dude, I'm a huge Halsey fan too. I love Halsey.
Yeah, yeah.
She's super attractive and she's very talented.
Halsey, if somehow you see this in the annals of the internet, hit this guy up right here.
Dumb Youngblood, I promise it's worth it.
No, I've actually feel bad because I've heard they are broken up, but like when all the protests were going on and stuff, and she was protesting, he was protesting, and I didn't know they were broken up. And just off chance she would have seen it, you know, I sent her a DM, you know, saying, hey, it's cool seeing people of your status, you know, sort of like standing up and doing the stuff, being in the thick of it. You know, I said you and Youngblood, and she never read it. She probably never will read it, but I found out after I sent that, I was like, well, if she did read that, that's kind of embarrassing because I didn't know they had broken up or whatever. So
at least they've been able to stay friends, and like that's really cool that both of them are so passionate. I think that's part of why they've remained like a close relationship, is they're very like passionate political like people.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool that they were out there like, you know, helping these people that were getting injured and stuff. Like that is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow. Like what kind of celebrity goes out and like does that? Like that's nuts. Like,
I can't say his last name right. John Boyega, who played Finn in Star Wars. He was actually out there doing it too, and I thought it was pretty I guess I don't know how to say it. In real life to his character in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Sort of like fighting against the status quo or whatever, against the, you know, empire, if you will. And he was sort of leading that charge in those protests and stuff with all those people. So I was like, huh, this is actually his character in the movie. Not to say he was never a cop or anything from what I know of, but you know what I mean? So he sort of like led the charge against the bad guys. So that's pretty cool too, seeing people like that out there.
Staying in character, dude.
So yeah,
that's who he is, man. I'm pretty sure he was just being himself. So
yeah. How's it out there, by the way? Is it crazy out there with like in Utah with the protests and everything, or is it fairly just sort of like mountains and pretty birds and stuff?
No, I mean it's definitely gotten heated here too. Like in Salt Lake City, there's been protests and stuff, and there was actually a cop car that was flipped over and lit on fire and graffitied, which is pretty nuts. Yeah, dude, it's been going on, and like people joke about it like, oh, Utah, whatever, like bunch of Mormons and stuff. I don't know, man. They're like Salt Lake's actually pretty like a pretty liberal place. So there's a lot of protesting going on down there. We actually had a curfew enlisted on us at one point for that, which was BS. You can tell I'm totally for all that, but yeah, dude, it's, you know, it's a peaceful place, but at the same time, there are people out here that are paying attention and doing due diligence. So
yeah, with like Seattle and Portland, all the stuff going on there, I would have never thought like in a million years those would be the two cities, you know, leading a social justice, you know, protest or racial justice protest. They just seem like the coffee drinking, flannel, you know, rainy, you know, hipsters, you know, Northeast guys, you know, who live in tiny houses and stuff, and they're the ones who are like sort of just like leading the charge and everything. So it's kind of funny how that part of the country has sort of become like the image for that type of stuff.
Needless to say, you won't catch any of the trap dudes out there.
Dude, I don't know if you saw that interview with Donald Trump that came out like a couple days ago with that, I forgot the guy's name, that British guy, I don't know his name. And he's just puzzled at the stuff he's saying. And that was literally, because like I said earlier, we've had Trap on one of these things, because I was like, I need to see if this guy is actually like that. I need to talk to him live in real time to see if he's actually like this in person. And the whole time it's just kind of like, yeah, okay. Yeah, man. So here's what we're going to talk about next. You know, it was just,
oh my gosh. Right
off the bat, he just went into how COVID was just this big BS thing and nothing should have ever closed down. And like I was just sitting there not knowing what to do the entire time. But then I heard him on another guy's podcast. It was a black guy who is very much a Bernie supporter, and he shared it on his Twitter, so that's how I found it. It was like an hour long, and I listened to their conversation. I'm like, why couldn't this version of Mr. Trapped be the version that everybody gets to see? Because he actually sounded somewhat intelligent in those conversations and very like listening to the other side and giving his viewpoint. They were agreeing to disagree, and it wasn't like this big, like fallout like you see on Twitter or whatever. But
right. Dude, that's the thing. I'm like, is it all an act? Is he just
that's what I wanted to know. That's why I had him on.
Like, or is this like really this dude? No, man. I think the best part of that whole thing was just Tillian coming in though and just completely crucifying the dude. It was so fun. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, now there are memes. It's like which band charted at this position on the top album charts and sold this many copies in week 1 or whatever. Oh, it's Dance Gavin Dance and not Trapped.
And he was all like, he's like, dude, whatever, man. We kick your butt on Pandora streams. He's like, all right, just because someone left a 3 Days Grace like playlist on for like overnight while they were tripping on meth or something, like doesn't count for like the same kind of stream.
Yeah, or listening to 2000s rock while fixing your motocross bike to do donuts in your backyard or something. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, dude, it's so funny. And then he just ends it in like, he's like, this might attribute to you getting laid one day.
I did ask him though. I was like, are any of these bands you've been arguing with, is there any of them that you actually liked? And I'm like, Volumes was one of the bands he was arguing with, and he's like, yeah, man, the Feels Good song's really catchy, and like I really enjoyed that one. A little hook that get stuck in your head and stuff like that. So I really like that song.
There you go. Hey, dude, maybe there's a little bit of good in him. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll find
next time on Trapped.
Maybe you can be his next Twitter victim. He finds this and someone like clips this and just be like, look, they're talking about you, man. He's like, who's Sunsleep, and then starts tagging you guys everywhere. Next thing you know, you're like touring with Bring Me the Horizon and working with Halsey. So,
dude, that would be the best that ever happened to us, I'm sure. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, man. Before we let you go here, it's been fun and everything. What else do you want to talk about or touch on with the band and some stuff that you guys have going on, or did we cover everything?
Yeah, I think we covered it for the most part. I mean, just keep your eyes peeled. We have some new some other stuff coming out later this year, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. Hopefully, when all this is over, you can actually tour on the East Coast again. We can hang out at a show and do one of these things for real in person and all that. And
oh yeah,
like the good old days where we had to drive 50 miles to do an interview.
Oh, dude, no, I will definitely, tour or not, catch me on the East Coast for sure. I love North Carolina and South Carolina, so
yeah, we're not too far from there. Sure. Yeah, maybe we can like set up some pretty cinematic coffee shop interview or something one day, because I bounce between here and Virginia. That's where I grew up, so I'm sure we'll we just keep in touch and figure out what days we're together, and maybe bust out a guitar if you play guitar and do an acoustic song or two, and we'll film it and shit. So
that would be awesome, man. That would be so sick.
oh, one more question for you. We could actually use this for something that we may or may not be trying to work on. But real quick before we let you go here, did your band ever get to the point to being, at least on the small level, play Warped Tour? And if so, what was your experience like on that? And if not, how did Warped Tour sort of impact you as a musician?
So to answer that question, no, I've actually never played Warped Tour. Been to Warped Tour my entire life, so it definitely impacted me as a musician. When some of my favorite bands growing up, play Warped Tour every summer. So it bummed me out when that was over, but I totally understand. And I hear that there's rumors that they might try to come up with some other version of it here eventually. So
yeah.
But yeah, definitely always been a big Warped Tour fan. Would be stoked if it came back. So
yeah. What year, if Sunsleep could have existed in any year of the Warped Tour, and you guys could have played, the entire thing with whatever band you wanted to, what year would you have picked your band to be able to tour and play with those bands?
Ooh, dude, that's a hard question. I would say more realistically, like 2015, 2016.
Okay.
like when like the Headspace record came out, like Issues,
Mm-hmm.
and like the Main. I love the Main.
Yeah.
I think they played that same year. So like that American Candy record, loved it. That would be cool. Or like back in like, I was just like a little like kid around then, but like when Amberlin was like on there, I think that it was like following like their cities tour.
Okay.
That would have been really sick just to see those guys play again. So
Yeah, I think the only time that I've actually ever seen Amberlin was in 2014 on Warped Tour, actually. And so I was like volunteering there with one of the, I think it was In Vogue, that I was volunteering with them that day. And so the girl who was handling the tent and stuff, she loved Amberlin. So like she took one of us, side stage for a band we wanted to see that day. And I picked them because I'd never seen them before and they were breaking up after. So that was the only time I got to see Amberlin. So
that was the saddest thing too. That was the last time I saw them before their reunion tour. But I remember that I was just bawling my eyes out the whole time, like, "Oh no, it's over."
Yeah, I almost pulled the trigger and went to go see them in Tampa with Under Oath, but I think I've seen Under Oath twice on that tour, and I think that was the year I was in Tennessee for that tour with Dance Gavin Dance. Then I had to drive to Charlotte for what was then called Carolina Rebellion to interview them on that tour at that show, along with all these other bands. And then later in the year, when they were with Plot and Dance Gavin Dance, I went to Charlotte to that show. And then I think it was like December or November, they were doing the Tampa show. And so I was just like, it's close to the holidays. I can't do it. But man, I wish I could have been at that show.
Dude, they're such a good live band. One of the most phenomenal live bands I've ever heard.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Do a cover of The Unwinding Cable Car. There you go.
Yeah. I did do a cover actually of Paper Thin Hymn.
Okay.
Like my solo stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, where can people find your plug everything, dude? Where can people find your solo stuff? What are you doing with that?
Yeah, so you can find it anywhere. You can find it on like Spotify, Apple Music. It's just Devin Barrus, my name. I actually have a single coming out here in like 2 or 3 weeks. So,
okay,
with a music video and everything. So yeah, check that stuff out.
Okay, awesome. Well, let you get back to your day and everything, and rest up and all that. And hopefully, we'll catch you another time and get to do this again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All right. See you later.
All right. See ya.